So Dina, tell me a little bit about yourself as a coach.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I help disillusioned professionals heal from and defy societal norms, build agency, rebuild agency from the inside out, and build freedom-based businesses that change the world.
Okay, so tell me exactly that, but explain it to me like I'm a 2-year-old.
Absolutely. Have you ever been stuck, felt like you didn't fit in, felt like you haven't belonged?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I help you undo that.
Sweet.
What does that look like? Well, I think all of us at one point or another, we get to a point in our lives where we realize that what we've been doing isn't actually authentic to who we are. We've been following the resume success. We've been following what would make our parents happy. We've been following and saying the things that hopefully will get us a scholarship, a degree, a raise, a promotion, the next job. And we've gotten really good at that. Being really good at that means being really bad at being yourself. My work really focuses on the soul line, on the business, and on the purpose, on the change that your authentic self can actually create in this life, in this world. So we have to start with, who are you? And unfortunately, society teaches us to forget who we are. So that's where we have to start. We have to look at what are the things that we have to undo? What are the narratives we have to undo? What are the definitions of happiness and success that we have to undo? We go even deeper. We look at the mother wound. We look at the father wound. We look at the beliefs that your inner child picked up throughout your childhood, but then also throughout your career. Are they helpful? And who would you be if you didn't have these beliefs? So that your true, your authentic self come out and begin to shine and take over the wheel. And then when you're able to do that, when you're able to go and when you're able to say, I know who I am, you're able to build a business that doesn't follow someone else's 5-step strategy. You're able to build a business that doesn't look like my business. You're able to build a business that aligns with your ideal lifestyle and who you truly want to be in this life, and becomes the vessel for the change that you want to help make happen in this world. So we go really deep so that you can go really far.
It's such a beautiful mission. I think so many of us, especially in the coaching space, resonate with that, where you hit the wall and you've done the thing and you've been successful and you're just miserable and it's just not working. For me, previous to getting into coaching, 10 years in oil and gas, production operations management, I went out, I did the things I was supposed to do, I got the results I was supposed to get, and I was miserable. It just wasn't meant for me.
Right.
So tell me more about how you got into this. Where did you start?
Well, how much time you got? So you said something really interesting that I just sort of want us to put a mental pin in. We get stuck not just in our relationship to our parents. We get stuck not just at the end of the career, at the very beginning of our entrepreneurial life. We can get stuck in that very entrepreneurial life, right? So it sort of never ends. It's a never-ending, thank God, a never-ending evolution of finding yourself and reconnecting with yourself. Maybe we can put a pin in that. Back to your question, where to begin? I was taught that knowing what I wanted to do with my life is good, would make me lovable, would make me employable, is the right thing to do, is the thing that would gain me my parents' and society's approval. So by the time I realized that acting, which is what I had been doing for 11 years growing up, I was on semi-professional stages, playing all kinds of characters, learning from those characters. I think of those characters as being my first mentors and coaches, because you get to slip into someone else's mind and you get to gain so much from them. And at one point, around maybe 16 years old, I realized that maybe professional acting on the musical theater stage wasn't going to be my path. And that was the first moment where I felt stuck, where I felt like I should, where I felt like I would have to, where I felt like I needed to. But never did I feel like I wanted to. I was like, okay, I should find another profession at 16 years old, like, right? Like, young, a baby, a kid, hasn't experienced life at its fullest. So I was scrambling to find another career that I would dedicate the rest of my life to at 16 years old. Now, I was very lucky in the sense that at this point I had gotten a scholarship to an international school, so I was being exposed to a very international academic environment, which allowed me to get a full ride at an American college in the United States, and that's where I studied music management. It was a great fit for me in the sense that I am an Enneagram type A, so I can be controlling, can be a little intimidating, but also I love providing for others. So growing into a natural managerial leadership position through college was very, very close to home for me. It was still close to the stage, even though now I was like behind the stage. And I was just flying through college, right? Like I had to get the perfect resume, I had to get the perfect job, to get the perfect visa, to climb to the tops of the field as the CEO of an orchestra. Got into the field, graduated early, naturally, because, overachiever. Graduated early, got into the field, and luckily, very quickly realized that this was not going to be the source of happiness that I thought it should be. I thought that building the perfect resume would make me happy. I thought that getting the perfect job would make me happy, that getting another expat's visa would make me happy, right? Like all of these things outside myself, and on the outside, my life did look perfect because I had pursued that dream of living, loving, and working in LA for a decade at that point. I drove the cute car, I had the perfect job that other people were envious of. I was in a relationship, but also I was working in a cubicle. And when I was done doing that, I worked in fundraising. I attended donor events to schmooze donors, not in a way that would feel natural to me, but in a way that was dictated from my bosses at the orchestra. So I constantly was someone that I thought would make other people happy, and I was constantly saying and being a version of myself that hopefully would make the orchestra money through donations. Things came to a head by the time my board chair sat me down and was like, we want to offer you a promotion, we'll pay for your attorney to get your next visa, we'll pay for that visa sponsorship as well, but you have to accept this promotion and this raise. And the next day I quit, I booked a one-way ticket to Vietnam, and that was the first time I had absolutely no plan in my life. Fast forward, I realized that I wanted to help people. So I'm backpacking through Southeast Asia. I'm realizing I want to help people because this is what had been lighting me up back when I was in the industry. On the side, I was always essentially coaching. I just didn't have the terminology for it. I was essentially coaching musicians who wanted to put their art form to work in a sense that would make a real life impact on the communities that they served with their art form. And they all came to me, Dina, I have the idea, but I don't have the business knowledge. Please help me. And then when things came, things just sort of, I believe that in life, when you're courageous enough to follow your instinct, to follow that weird, unexplainable gut pull that pulls you towards something that makes no rational sense, when you have that courage, life then sort of conspires in your favor. Life now says, okay, great, you have the courage, I'm gonna reward that, I'm gonna support you with that. And then life just sort of puts the right opportunities in front of you. Now, don't get me wrong, you still have to actually go after these opportunities. It's not surrendering and meditating all day, hoping that money will come in, right? But I just happened to run into the right people, literally at the airport, back in LA, someone from our board ended up being my first coach. I ended up doing a bunch of production work for her. I sat in France in one of her workshops and she asked me, well, what's the offer you want to create? How are you gonna work with clients? She taught me how to enroll coaching clients just by me being there and actually getting paid for producing the whole workshop. And then she asked me this one question that was so important for me to be asked. And she said, what will you do if this business fails? Good question to ask, right? But I looked at her and I leaned forward and I was like, what do you mean? Success is totally inevitable for me. And I didn't say it from a place of arrogance or anything. I just said it from a place of, I know that I'm on the right path. And there may be tribulations, there may be failures, there may be mistakes, setbacks. Everything is going to come my way. But ultimately, this business is going to be successful because I know it's mine. I know this is my purpose. I know this is my mission. I just have to lean into it. Well, then, of course, I had to learn how to coach. So I hired someone who was trained by the University of Santa Monica in California in spiritual psychology-based coaching, which essentially denotes that, well, there's two guiding principles that this school of thought teaches. One is, as a coach, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to highlight all of the inner resources that you already have. That's my job as a coach. It's to help you be the brilliant person that you were born to be. I'm not here to fix you. And the other guideline is, and this is why I'm so passionate about really integrating the inner soul work, the purpose work with the business work, is the way you relate to anything is the way you relate to everything. Meaning, the way you relate to your mom is going to show up in your sales conversations. The way you were taught to relate to money back as a child is going to show up in your pricing, in how you pitch yourself, in whether or not you're comfortable putting your prices on your website, et cetera, right? And that's where I learned to be a coach. It's also where I learned to enroll into a coaching environment. And then from there, and we can talk about this more, but I'll sort of bring it to a conclusion here. From there, I went on another journey of getting myself stuck. From there, I went on a journey of sort of forgetting about my business background, forgetting about my purpose, and just doing what I was taught to be doing. And I had to let it unravel again. And I had to get myself unstuck again. And at that point, it's really like, okay, well, now I'm tethered to my own business, right?
Yeah.
So there was a whole other pivot that happened a few years down the line after already working as a coach, making fine money as a coach, and traveling while coaching. There was another getting unstuck, getting myself untethered moment in there as well.
In your story, you have those trials and tribulations that we all go through, and you've got the identity, you've got the success, but what you said was, who am I? And I think so many of us go through that, and let's let go of this identity. It no longer serves me. For me, the verbiage was, who am I without all of this? And that was leaving behind my house and my career and all the stuff that I had bought. And who am I without all of this? And the phrasing that you're using is enrolling in coaching. And a different phrasing, but the same concept, is just embodying coaching. Because it's not just something that you do as a career, it's about really stepping into that role. So tell me more about what stepping into that role looked like for you.
Stepping into the role of coaching?
Yes.
It looked like a lot of healing and oh shit moments. It looked like getting triggered a lot by clients. And it looked like being really grateful for having a mentor coach that I could just almost literally call up and be like, I just almost fainted on this enrollment call. Why the fuck was that the case? Right? So, when I think of becoming a coach, there are sort of three big pillars that you want to be looking at. One is learning the business of coaching. How do you actually make money and make that make sense? Learning the skill of coaching and embodying the coaching. They all tie together, and at the end of the day, it's probably easiest to forget about embodying your coaching. What does that mean? It means truly walking your talk. It means that you can only take your client as far as you've been willing to go yourself. I'll give a quick example. A few years ago, I decided that I had to take a big step away from my relationship with my mom, and we didn't speak for almost an entire year. And there was another moment of having to figure out, who am I if I'm not my mom's daughter? Who am I if I'm not enmeshed with my mom's identity? And as I was healing that wound, all of my clients were beginning to talk to me about their mom. And there was no coincidence, because energetically, and also because of the intellectual coaching work and the inner healing work, again, skill of coaching, embodiment of coaching I had done, I was able to now bring my clients along on that journey and ask the right questions. Now, there's some, like, we don't, as coaches, we don't have to go through all of the experiences that our clients go through in order to guide them through that, right? But from a soul perspective, we want to just kind of dive really deep, and we want to look at our triggers, we want to look at our narratives, we want to look at our wounds, and we want to look at what are the things that are holding me back. And be really honest with ourselves when we find, oh, something just triggered me, and as a coach, I want to do, well, kind of two things, right? On the one hand, I want to look at what is this trigger here to tell me, and I may need a coach to help me figure that out. But then also I bring that perspective on life to my clients, and I look at, great, my client just dumped all of this shit in the middle of the session, and she's talking about X, Y, and Z, and she's clearly in distress. As a coach, my job is to change that narrative, is to change the perspective on life, is to help the client own their experience of life again and not be a victim to the experience of their life, right? So I don't know if this answers your question, but I think we talk a lot about the business of coaching, which is important. We talk a lot about, actually we don't talk enough about how to coach, right? Yeah. It actually is a skill. You actually have to learn how to ask a question, how to, thank God for questions. You have to actually learn how to ask the right questions in a way that is empowering, in a way that makes the client feel seen. You have to learn how to listen. But then you also have to walk that talk yourself every single day. And that was, on the one hand, it was a really hard time for me, because as I was becoming a coach, I also was beginning to be ready to look at my own father wound, to look at my own money narrative, to look at my own mother wound, to look at some other traumas that had happened more recently to me actually founding my business. So it was a very vulnerable time for me personally. And I sort of had to heal more or less quickly for my clients, for the success of my business, for the success of my clients, but I also got to heal very quickly because I wanted to be a fantastic coach, because I wanted to be able to take my clients really deep without sitting there jittery, like literally about to faint, because I'm so triggered, I'm so activated inside myself because I'm not healed yet. So as a coach, you kind of have to continuously heal and work on yourself, but you also get to continuously heal and work on yourself. And you bring all of that back to this one question that you ask, back to this one observation that you offer to your client, back to the way you hold space, back to the way you listen to your clients. It just all really integrates, and you have to let it integrate. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we all know that when we step out and we start to coach, that we're going to be faced with a lot, and we don't know what that's going to look like. But for everyone that I've talked to, it's always being faced with their own stuff in a way that they never expected. And I am here to tell you that over the last few months, I have been faced with my own stuff in ways that I never expected.
Yes, coaching will do that to you for sure.
But here we are.
Yes.
Talking about the refinement of skills as well. Like, for me, as with many others, there's a switch that's flipped, and all right, I am no longer just somebody's friend that gives advice, and learning the skill of active listening and learning the powerful questions and whatever other tools that you want to call them. But stepping into coaching school, for me, I couldn't put a number on that.
Right.
And for other people, they feel that they don't need it. That's okay. If you are qualified enough and have the ability, do what you need to do. But for me as a person, being exceptionally emotionally intelligent already, but entering into that environment, having structure and training to be presented with the tools, to have the opportunity to use them on other people who are learning them. I couldn't put a dollar amount on that.
Absolutely.
On how much it transformed my ability to show up for my clients.
Yeah. Learning the actual skill of coaching means learning how to ask the right questions, but then also learning processes, right? Like one question is fine, but knowing in the back of your mind, I'm actually about to take this client through a whole process to create transformation, to facilitate a new narrative, to facilitate a growing and a new and a more empowering and self-loving relationship that the client has with themselves. Bless you. It takes time to learn that, right? And it takes time, and the mentor, I know something that as I was training to become a coach was so uncomfortable and so vital to my growth as a coach was to have my coach with me in the room as I'm coaching the other person. Literally so uncomfortable because you're in your head, you're like, what is she going to think about this? Am I doing well? Okay, can I ask this question? Right? It's so raw, it's so vulnerable because you do show up. Of course, you show up with like within a professional container, but you do bring a lot of yourself, of your own soul, to your clients, right? And to now have someone there whose job it literally is, who's literally getting paid to provide feedback. I was going to say judge, but of course they don't judge in a negative way, right? They provide really constructive feedback. As uncomfortable as it was helpful, like completely transformed how I listened, how I asked the questions, because it's the nuance, right? It's the nuance between asking a question that is suggestive and asking an open-ended question. You have to be able to listen back to yourself and go, oh, I could have asked that question differently. Oh, I didn't pick up on this, right? Like, I remember my coach, she kept pointing out, it's like, hey, did you hear this? Did you hear this change in tone? She didn't use that word, she used this word. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I thought I knew how to use my ears, but now I'm listening differently. And it makes all the difference. And there is the stepping from, I'm just a friend who has good listening skills into, I'm putting on my coaching hat. And now I'm gonna ask you a question a little differently. Because coaching questions can be provocative. Coaching questions can be a little, what's the word, intrusive, right? So, of course, as a coach, you always want to ask for permission, right? Like, I'm not the one leading the call, I show up as a leader, but you have the agency to say, I'm not gonna go there. You have the agency to say, I'm not comfortable answering the question. As a client, you have that agency. It's my job as a coach to make sure that you know that. So I always lead with asking for permission. Is it okay if I share an observation? Is it okay if I ask a question here? Would you be comfortable if we went a little further into this? I always give options, right? And that creates a safe space for me to ask potentially really provocative questions, triggering questions, because that's where the meat is, that's where the transformation is, right? To be able to ask a question and then hold this space that is so safe and that is so sacred and that is co-created for the client to go, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I don't think I've ever looked at life this way. And then boom, you have a whole life-changing conversation, and then boom, you spend 10 minutes after that session on the business, and suddenly the business transforms, because the way you relate to anything is the way you relate to everything.
There's a lot to be said about building that container and taking the agency as a coach and learning to take that agency of like, what kind of a frame can you build with this person so that you can enter into that safe space together, so that you can co-create that, so that you can take them there. And that is something that takes time to learn. That's something that you don't know right away.
Right.
The reoccurring theme that I'm getting in this conversation is just the importance of actually taking the time to learn this as a skill and to understand that. Yeah. So let's rewind a little bit and go back to that hat pin that we put in earlier.
Yes, let's go back to it. So yeah, that was the theme of feeling tethered to something in a way that you don't want to be tethered to. And to feel chained, tethered to something is very different from being committed to something, right? Like if I'm committed to my business growth, I may still put in 10 hours a day working towards that growth, towards that goal in my business. That is amazing, as long as it feels aligned. Like right now, I'm pulling crazy hours because I have a really big fucking goal for my business. I hope it's okay to swear. And so like I'm letting that goal pull me towards it. I'm not talking about that. If you're right now in this growth stage, if you're right now in this, I'm so committed and I'm actually feeling a little unsafe and a little uncomfortable because the goals that I'm pursuing are so big and I don't know all of the steps, but I'm still choosing to just run towards that goal, that's fantastic. So I want to draw that distinction because if you're in that phase, you may still physically be on your laptop all the time, but for the right reason, for an aligned reason. When things feel really hard, when you are really indecisive, when you question every decision that you've made, when you kind of dread your coaching calls, when you've hit an income ceiling and don't know how using the model that you've employed thus far will get you to the next income ceiling, that's when you're stuck. That's when you're literally chained to your business. And there are more indicators. If, this is not necessarily true in the beginning stages of your business, but if you've been at this for a year or two, if the minute you go to bed, your business stops serving and stops selling, you have a problem. You're now trapped. You're now chained to your business. If you wake up and you look at your Instagram and you're like, I don't know what I should post today. Let me go and look at this big list that some content creator gave me. Oh, today's Monday, I have to post a relatable post about this content pillar. You don't have a purpose-aligned business. You're chained to your business. And this happens for many reasons. For me, in my personal journey, it happened because I had a undetected way of relating to my mother wound. I very much wanted to make my coach at the time happy. I very much wanted to get her approval. I very much wanted to just make my business look the way hers looked, because that would have to mean that inevitably I would be successful. Well, that didn't work out quite so well. And again, I'm gonna keep going back and forth between the business strategy and what was actually happening, the turmoil that was happening on the inside. Who am I to depart from this strategy? Is she going to be disappointed? There was a lot of forgiveness work that was going on because I had to forgive myself for having pursued a strategy that I then realized after 3 years wasn't going to get me towards the bigger vision that I had for the business. So I had to forgive myself because my narrative was, oh my gosh, I've wasted so much time. And that wasn't a very helpful narrative. But I also had to forgive my mom yet again. I had to yet again heal a deeper layer of my mother wound, and I had to do some forgiveness work around the part of the industry that I was in and the school of thought, the business school of thought around coaching. I had to let go of beliefs like the one-on-one coaching container is the holy grail of coaching and anyone who does a course is a sellout, right? It's like funny narratives that we pick up and don't examine and then begin to embody, and then suddenly the body literally falls apart. Like I was sick all the time back then, and the business gets stuck. The business no longer naturally grows, or you no longer have a sense of fulfillment, purpose, and alignment to your business growth. So what did I do? Forgiveness, healing, and then I needed to remember my business background. I needed to remember all of the skills, all of the expertise, all of the experience that I had but wasn't applying to my own damn business. So that's when I started to create some levers in my business to automate and utilize systems to serve and sell when I'm asleep, to diversify my offers, because not every single person who is an ideal client for me or an aligned client for me necessarily needs here's the everything package. Only a select few people will want that package, and that's literally how it's meant to be. So you want to diversify your offers in order to diversify and expand your service, your income, but also your ability to make money. That's when I changed the way I related to content. That's when my content changed, right? It's like so much of my connection strategies changed. What do I mean by connection? Sales, marketing, audience growth, and nurturing. And that was a very liberating thing to do. Again, totally like on the outside, now I was working more, right? So on the outside, sometimes it looks like, wait, what are you doing? Like now you're working more? That makes no sense. You're like, you wanted more freedom and more alignment, and now you're working more? Well, yeah, because guess what? If you have a big vision, you have to put a lot of hours toward that vision. If you have an idea for what you want your business to be the vessel for, what change you want your business to be the vessel for, you better put blood, sweat, and tears into that. It's the hardest thing. It's one of the most courageous things that frankly, I've seen myself, but also see my clients go through, is to really embody and integrate the purpose that they have for their business, the change that they want to pursue with their business. Because once you fully embody that, and sometimes that's scary because I have a big vision for how I want to change the world, and I mean those words literally. Like, it's not just a pretty phrase like, oh, let's change the world. No. What's the change that you want your business to be the vessel for? How are you going to go about this? This is a big conversation. It's a scary conversation. So there's no harm in taking a few months, maybe even a few years of really dropping into that purpose, and then figuring out as a business owner, as a coach, how to let yourself be driven by that purpose. And again, on the outside, that's gonna look like working a lot of really long hours. And that for me, honestly, is the epitome of a freedom business. It's like I have the freedom to fully pursue my purpose. I have the freedom to fully speak my mind and fully build a business that is rooted in my values, that is in complete and full integrity with myself. I also have the freedom to build a business that, thanks to systems and having the right structures in place, serves on my behalf while I'm over here having a pina colada at the pool, right? Because that is important too. I am building the business that will allow me to have the farm in Spain and the she shed in London and see my family every single month back home in Germany, right? Like from a freedom lifestyle perspective, absolutely. Those two things, they do go together. And I'm about to shut up because I realize I'm digressing and I'm getting really passionate about this, right? But when you're stuck in your business, when you feel overwhelmed in your business, chances are that you're not aligned with the impact that you want to make through your business. You're not aligned with the lifestyle that you want your business to help you create. And that typically means changing first on a healing level, and then second on a structure and a systems level. So they're all of the answers to the questions you didn't ask.
I hear a lot of the embodying the freedom there. People don't get into coaching because they just think that it's a job that they can check into and out of. They do it because they want to make impact, and they want to have the freedom and control over their lives. I'm presently working more hours or about the same per week as I was leaving oil and gas. And that's a choice I'm making. In my time off and getting into coaching, I didn't work much at all. And I got really bored, and it wasn't good for my mental health. And now I'm in a place where I have something that I'm passionate about, where I'm purpose driven, and getting in alignment with the way that I can help people in this world and the amount that I can help people in this world. Why would I not want to do more of that?
Exactly.
I've been in Da Nang, Vietnam for a month and a half. I have been in the ocean one time.
Right.
I will be here another month. I will probably not be in the ocean again. I just have other things to do. That's okay. I have the freedom. It's right there. I don't need to do as many interviews as I've been doing. That's okay. I can put a bookmark in it. I have the option. I have the ability. But I have the drive to be going after the things I'm going after. So I have the freedom to pursue that to its depth. So we've heard a lot about your story and how you've gotten to this point. So you're here now. You've arrived. There's always more to go.
I'm on the right track.
I'm
paving.
We're paving the way. With where you're at today, one of my favorite things to talk about is the proverbial tool basket.
Yeah.
We all have tools that we reach in and we use in different cases. I've heard a lot about healing the mother wound, healing the father wound. What are some other things that you have locked and loaded in your proverbial tool basket to help people with?
So much. So again, the base is spiritual psychology based coaching, right? And beyond that, I'm an energy healer. So I bring sometimes very explicitly, sometimes implicitly, that to my entire life, specifically to my clients. This informs how I create and set up the container, right? And for coaches who may be newer and don't know that language, right? You want to be really intentional about how you set up the conversation with your client. It's not just oh, hi, how are you? Tell me, what are we working on today, right? It gets to be a lot more intentional, right? So I typically start my sessions with a centering. Sometimes that's meditation, sometimes that's a form of energy work. Sometimes I name it as such, sometimes I don't, right? Sometimes I just have clients write down their fears and drop them out. Like we've burned fears and limiting beliefs before, right? Just really utilizing the way we float and we connect to one another in an intentional way is something that you get to make your own. Like I'm not saying every coach should start their sessions with a meditation or with a centering. No, but ask yourself, how are you starting your sessions? How are you intentionally inviting your client to co-create this space? Because it is a sacred space, right? So that would be one. I've done a bunch of work with the Enneagram, with A Course in Miracles. A work that I have gone into but am intending to go significantly deeper into is in our family systems. So understanding that, we're familiar with inner child work, right? We're maybe familiar with the inner mother, the inner father, right? We have different parts that were born at different stages, at different developmental stages in our lives. How we're relating to these different parts. Is your inner critic, that's another part of you. Is your inner critic perhaps just here to keep you safe? And I have a bunch of tools in my toolbox, such as gestalting, such as guided visual journaling to help get my clients into conversation with all parts of themselves. So I'm happy to go deeper into any of the things that I just mentioned, but those are the ones that are most top of mind for me. But also, I'm sure you know this, I've been doing this work for a long time, right? So you pick up things, you integrate things, you go really deep on some things, right? And then you have like a list of skills and modalities that you want to yet get into, right? And sometimes, last year or 2 years ago, I was really just knee deep in energy healing and in gestalting, and I was learning about inner family systems. And then the last 12 months, I was knee deep in, let's actually turn this into a business, right? Like, let's take all of this and actually turn it into a business that's going to thrive, that's going to be really impactful, that's becoming a movement and helping a whole movement of thousands and millions of people return back home to themselves in order to create positive, not negative, positive change in the world.
We all have those phases of learning and integration as well. And I think that it's an ongoing process. Mm-hmm. And if you are dedicating your life to helping people change their lives, then you need to dedicate yours to learning new and more skills, to have that continued education to go further and further and further to make sure that you can continue to help and continue to grow. So what are a few things that are on the horizon that you would like to learn upcoming?
Absolutely. I want to say just quickly one more thing. I think from a business perspective, it's important to allow yourself to let it be really, really messy. Meaning, You learn and integrate the next day. Learn more the next day and integrate right away. Like, don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait for the certification to be done. Don't wait for the book to be fully read or for the perfect mentor coaching session that you've had. Just go and play in the field. Let it be messy, but get to the money fast. The way you make an impact, the way you actually grow as a coach is to get to the money fast, meaning to actually get yourself some paying clients, and then fall flat on your face in the middle of that, and then have a coach to help you pick yourself back up. So what's on the horizon for me as far as business growth, or as far as specifically coaching skills are concerned?
Which do you have more to share about?
Yeah, so I already mentioned something that's coaching-wise on the horizon for me is to like go really knee-deep into inner family systems, IFS. But I'm mostly focused right now this entire year on building out the spaces where I as a coach get to play, where I as a leader get to play. So my brand is called Way of the Founder. So, you know, I mean it quite literally when I say I'm paving, right? So I'm paving the path towards some bigger containers in my business right now. Because again, like if we are all as coaches, we're really good at accumulating all of the skills, accumulating all of the modalities, but then let's not forget to offer that service in a really big, in a really uncomfortably big, impactful way. And that means building out the offers, building out the containers. So I'm building out a bunch of courses right now to be able to, you know, turn this brain into something that people can consume all the time while I'm, again, having a pina colada at the pool, right? Or, you know, having a really important conversation with my mom, or working on my relationship, right? Like doing life things. I don't want to build a business where service has to be put on hold in order for me to do life things. Service has to always continue to go. And I'm building out a really beautiful, larger community-based container for new impact-driven, purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to hit the ground running. So that's a really big goal as far as holding space for 50 plus people at a time is concerned. It's something that I get to grow into. It's something that I'm super fucking terrified of. Yeah. And it's something that I just know is important for me it's important for a Way of the Founder to grow into, to just hold a really intimate but really large space for more and more and more people. Because if you say you're building a movement but you're working with 10 people, I'm sorry, but that's not enough. It's just not enough. Like if you say you build a movement, then you have to create the capacity within your business, within your coaching capabilities to hold space for thousands of people. Not one-on-one, obviously, but in containers, in spaces that facilitate transformation in a way that's more high flame, that's deeper, that's more transformational even than one-on-one could be, or differently so transformational than one-on-one is. So yeah, just really flexing that community muscle right now is something that requires me to build new business muscles, have different kind of support, both coaching support and team support, have even better systems, right? And again, it's driven by my purpose. It's driven by building movement. And again, fucking terrifying, fucking exciting. Like it has me literally work 10 hours almost every single day of the week right now. And I'm so thrilled about it. Like I'm so filled up by it. I'm nowhere near burnout. I'm not exhausted. I'm just like, all right, let's get back into it. Let's grow this baby, right? Because the world needs it, right? And maybe that's a nice thing to also share with the audience, right? Your work is needed, right? There is a reason that you're passionate about this particular change that you want to help create in the world. Put your all behind that. Put your all behind your vision, your all behind your purpose. Take that risk. Take the emotional, the financial, the time risk to make it happen. The world needs you. The world wants you to make that happen. So don't fear away from the risk, the terror, the frightening things, right? Lean into that and then figure it out on the way. Find the right support, find the right systems, the right team, the right coach to help you go through these terrifying, through these dark, and through these really, really big fucking transformational times that are ahead of you if you let them be ahead of you in your business.
The classic atomic habits, you don't rise to the height of your goals, you fall to the height of your systems. And you build the systems and then you run until they break. And then you build new systems and you run until they break.
Yes.
And
yes.
I have just built some new systems and we are running them until they break.
Exactly.
That's just part of it. That's part of the process. So for people who are just getting into coaching and finding their way, what else do you have to say to them?
You're gonna edit out the pauses, right?
Not this one. We're saving it because it's special.
Okay. I think people who are called to be coaches are called to be coaches for a reason.
Yeah.
The world needs a lot of healing right now. There's a lot of literal bloodshedding happening on our planet, and there's an open wound, a wound of hatred. And I truly do believe, and forgive me if this sounds entirely audacious, but sometimes we have to have audacious vision and goals, right? I believe that coaches are in part the key to helping society as a whole remember love, remember togetherness, remember that when the tide rises, all boats rise. And the sooner you can get into actually providing your coaching to clients, to paying clients, because the transformation available is so much bigger to someone who has skin in the game, the better. So don't wait for your coaching skills to be perfect. Don't wait for the website to be perfect. Don't even wait for your social media to gain traction and deliver clients to your doorway. Get out there, create your own spaces, create your own opportunities. I know you're doing this beautifully, right? Go out there, create a workshop, invite people to come to that workshop, and then take initiative and say, hey, you person, let's call the person Tom. I noticed you really had a positive reaction to this workshop. How about we go a little deeper? Can I invite you to have a coaching conversation with me? And you can even in the beginning make this a gift. It can be complimentary, but get your coaching out there. Allow yourself to serve. There is a reason why you were called to be a coach. Go and act on that reason. Don't keep the skills that you're learning. Don't keep the ideas, the vision, the dreams that you're having to yourself. We need you. We truly need you. The world needs these loving conversations where there's only compassion and no judgment. We all need to experience what it's like to not be judged. Coaches are professionals at that. So spread that service as far and as wide as possible. The strategy, the business models, the offers, that comes later. Even the systems, it all comes later. Nothing has to be perfect. Right? Sure, we need systems to scale, but we don't need systems to get started. We don't. We just need a whole lot of courage, one offer, understanding that you need to price for transformation and not by the hour, and then go out there. What's the worst thing that can happen? That someone says no? Oh, come on.
Gonna hear a lot of no's.
More than you thought you might.
With everyone in these really early phases in my podcast, I say that give it 6 months or a year and we'll have you back. But I already feel a part 2 of this episode coming on the near horizons.
Well, you know where to find me.
And for people who don't, how can people connect with you?
Absolutely. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram at Way of the Founder. You're most welcome to tap into any of the resources that I have in my highlights. The place I would send you to as someone who may just be starting out as a coach is a masterclass that I have up called Unbecoming. It literally walks you through the processes that you want to have in place for yourself as a human, but also for yourself as a coach, to undo and to let go of who you were taught you needed to be in order to be loved or be successful, and reconnect with and remember who you are at your core. And inside the masterclass, I tie it all back to how to not be stuck or how to not let your past get yourself stuck in your business. That masterclass is called Unbecoming, but you can message me at any time if I've said anything, we've talked about anything that makes no sense to you. Please just reach out to me and we'll have a chat, and I'll point you in the right direction to find the right guidance, to find the right resources. Way of the Founder.
And I'll have links in the comment section below.
It's 2 links.
I'll have links in the comment section below. Dina, thanks so much for coming on today. I really
Thanks for
enjoyed
having
this
me.
chat.